The hummingbird. What's that all about? I recently heard a story about a couple who really liked hummingbirds. This husband and wife, they set up feeders in their backyard for the hummingbirds, and they would routinely, year-round, take care of these birds and feed them. But one day when they were leaving their house, they went into their garage to get their car, and up in the top of the garage, at the very top, up in the rafters, was a hummingbird that was flying, trying to get out. But there was no way out of the garage by trying to go through the roof. And so the couple debated on what to do. How could they get this hummingbird down and out to a place of relative safety? So the first thing they did is they opened the garage door up and they tried to shoo the bird to go out the big garage door. The bird wouldn't go out. It kept at the very top of the garage, up in the rafters, kept just flapping away, trying to get out through the roof. Then they decided, let's go get one of our hummingbird feeders with this special feed that hummingbirds really like, this nectar, and let's bring it in the garage and see if we can get the bird to fly down. And they tried that, and that didn't work. So hummingbirds are the smallest birds of all the species on the planet, but they also have the highest metabolism, which means that even though their wings beat extremely fast, they can't fly for very long. So there's trouble for this bird. It's at the top of the garage, the wings are just flapping away, but it's not going to last very long before it falls to its death. So the husband decides he's going to get up on a ladder, and he climbs up and he gets on the trusses and he walks across the trusses in this garage. He's got a pair of work gloves on, and he gets to the bird, and this bird is so tired at this point, so worn out, so exhausted, that it literally collapses right into the gloves of this man that he's going up to get the bird. So the man comes back down the ladder with the bird, and they go outside, and the man opens his hands for the bird to fly away, but the bird is so exhausted, it literally cannot move. So they bring the feeder over to the bird, and the bird finally, after a few minutes, starts to feed on this nectar, starts to get its energy back, and finally, it flies away. What's the moral to the story? The moral is that we're all like this hummingbird. In our own lives, we get trapped in the wrong place. We take a wrong turn, go down a wrong road, get into trouble, and we get trapped like that bird was at the top of the garage. And sometimes the freedom from that trap is right there. For that bird, that garage door was wide open, freedom was right there, but the bird couldn't see it and didn't take advantage of it. Sometimes people will come and try to help you out of your trap. They'll call to you, just like this couple did when they brought in the hummingbird feeder and said, come feed here. Sometimes people will call to you, but you won't see them or you'll ignore them. But in life, we're just like that hummingbird. We get trapped, we go the wrong way, we get in trouble. That's the bad news. The good news is we serve a God that knows all about hummingbirds. He knows that you get in trouble. He knows that you take some wrong turns in your life and do some things that you shouldn't do. He knows all about this sin thing. How do we know about the sin? Well, the Bible tells us we've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. Each and every one of us, no exceptions whatsoever. So that means we've taken these wrong turns, we've gotten trapped like the hummingbird, but God, He'll call out to you. He'll call you to come back to you. Now, some people say to me, well, Pastor, why doesn't He come quicker? Why isn't when I first get in trouble, He doesn't come right away? Why does He let me get so deep into the trouble before He comes and rescues me? And the answer is just like the hummingbird. If that hummingbird was not tired and literally exhausted, when that man went up on the ladder with his gloves to get that hummingbird down, that hummingbird would have flown away. He would have resisted. There's no way he would have let that man cradle in his gloves. We're the same way. Sometimes when we get into trouble, particularly when we first get into trouble, if God comes to us or calls to us, we're not interested. We haven't gotten in trouble so badly yet, so exhausted that we're interested in listening to what God has to say. Sometimes we just think, we got this. We know we got this. We can take care of this. But like the hummingbird, we can't. So sometimes when God doesn't get you right away, He's just waiting for you to get a little bit tired, a little bit exhausted, so that when he does come, you'll let him put you in his arms and take you away from that trap, just like he did with the hummingbird. In the book of Matthew, it says, this is Jesus talking, by the way. Jesus says, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet our heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?" God's making the point here. Jesus is telling you directly, God cares about all of us. He cares about the birds. He takes care of them. But he cares about you even more. So when you get trapped in your life, and we all do, like the hummingbird, when you take a wrong turn, when you get into your sins, whatever they are, maybe they're addictions, maybe drugs, maybe alcohol, maybe you stole something, maybe you lied, maybe you ruined a relationship, maybe you ignored your own health. Who knows? Maybe all of the above. But whatever you've done, whatever wrong turn you've taken, like the hummingbird, God will take care of you. Now, the Bible has a classic example of a guy that was like this hummingbird. But before I tell you that story, I want to remind you something about this book, this Bible. This Bible is not just a history book. It is a history book, that's for sure, but this baby, it's a guidebook. It's a guidebook for your life. Everything that you're going through in your life, it's in here in the Bible. Now, people say to me all the time, "Pastor, that was 2,000 years ago. Times have changed. It's not the same." Well, I'll grant you this. We're living in a different age. We live in this tech age. We got these fancy cell phones and satellite TV and 24-hour news. They didn't have any of that back in the Bible times. But the problems that we're having today, they had those back in the Bible times. How about the problems with your health? The Bible is full of stuff about that. How about all the healings that Jesus did? How about relationship issues? My gosh, starting way back with Cain and Abel, all kinds of relationship issues in the Bible. You're having problems in your relationships? Your answer is in the Bible. How about financial problems? We've all had those. Having financial problems? The Bible is full of stories about people that had financial problems and God stepped up and rescued them. It's all here. Whatever you're going through was in and is in this book, this history book, this guidebook for your life. It's right here. And by the way, the book is pretty interesting. The story we're going to talk about now in the Bible is the story of the prodigal son. Now, I see heads nodding up. Everybody knows the story of the prodigal son, but I want you to notice this story is so good, so interesting. We're 2,000 years later, and we're still talking about it. This is good stuff. This is one of those stories that you can read over and over again. And when I get into the Bible, sometimes I'll read this story. It might be the 1,000th time, and I'll see something that I didn't see before. So it never gets old, and God will continually unfold to you the mysteries that are hidden here in the Bible for you. So let's take a look at this story of the prodigal son. I love this story, but let's remember that while this is Jesus talking, he's talking in a parable. What's a parable? Jesus used these all the time. It's just a way of telling a story in a way that's interesting, a little bit fun, and something that's easily rememberable. Teachers do this all the time when they're working with their students. So it's not a true story, but it's a real life story in the sense that you can relate it to your life. So Jesus often spoke in parables. And in this story here, the story of the prodigal son, he's speaking in a parable. So let's take a look at it. Let's go to Luke. We're in chapter 15, and we're in verse 11. Jesus is talking, remember. Jesus says, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.'" Now, let's stop right there. Back in Bible times, the oldest son was the one that would inherit the estate when the father died. The older one was the one that would be in control. But in this family, there's 2 sons. It's the younger son that's going to the father and saying, "I want my half of the estate, and I want it now." He's not willing to recognize his brother as being over him, and he's not even willing to wait for his father to die. So this is a pretty impertinent young man. He goes to his father, he says, "Listen, I want it, and I want it now." How many of us have done the same thing in life? We want what we want, and we want it now. We get impatient. This young man did. The story goes on to say, he says to his father, give me my share of the estate. So the father divided the estate between them. In the next verse it says, not long after, the younger son got together all that he had and set off for a distant country. Now it's important to remember this verse here. He gathered up all that he had, this younger son. So he got his half of his estate, his father's estate. He got all his own stuff, and he left town. Because he took all that he had, this tells us he wasn't coming back. He had no plans to come back to see Pop and his brother and all of the servants. No plans whatsoever. Sometimes we do the same thing. Sometimes we get so far off track, we say, I'm never coming back. I'm never talking to you again. But I promise you, sometimes God will have a different plan. And we're going to see that in just a moment here. So the kid leaves town. But he's leaving with his pockets full. He's got plenty of money. Life is good for this young man. What does he do? The Bible says he squanders his wealth in wild living. Okay, we've all done a little bit of that ourselves. Then it says, after he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the land. Now, did God bring the famine? The Bible doesn't tell us. But we know that nothing happens on this planet that God doesn't cause to happen or allow to happen. So there's a famine in the land. This famine affects this young man in a huge way because he spent, the Bible says, squandered all of his money. It's all gone, and now there's a famine. And remember, he's not going back home. He took everything with him. He burned all of his bridges. So now he's in big trouble. So what does he do? He said, so he went and hired himself out, and he was sent to feed the pigs. Now, this, for a Jewish young man, was a huge disgrace because the Jewish people look at the pigs as being unclean. And now he's gone from the very height where he had all this money, this huge wealth that he squandered, and now he's out feeding pigs. But it gets even worse. It says he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. He was so hungry, so desperate, he wanted to eat the pig food. But he couldn't do that because his master would see it and he would get fired. So this guy was in huge trouble. He went from the very top to the very bottom. And it says no one gave him anything. And as I read that verse in the Bible, I thought to myself, I'm betting as he was squandering his own money, his dad's money, I'm betting he didn't give anybody anything either. The Bible says, give, and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, shall men give unto you. When you don't give to others, you're not getting anything back. And that's what happened to him. Squandered all the money, wasn't giving to other people, and now the Bible says no one gave to him. So he's in huge trouble. He's in a foreign land with no money, he's feeding pigs, and he's really hungry. What happens here? Well, much like the hummingbird, there's a turn in the story. And this is where God gets involved. In verse 17 it says, when he came to his senses, we've all done that. We've all gotten in trouble so bad, so big time, that sometimes the light finally goes off in our head and we say, wow, I've hit rock bottom. I've hit as low as I can go. I need to do something different. One of our volunteers has coached me on that very concept of hitting rock bottom, and then a change will occur in your own thinking. So the man comes to his senses. He was way, way off track, just like that hummingbird. That hummingbird, there's no way he was getting out without some help, and this kid, the same thing. The Bible goes on to say, and this is the boy talking, he says, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. Now, this is important for us to remember. Sometimes you've got to make amends. Sometimes when we do things that are just so far off the beaten path, we got to go and apologize. That doesn't make you less of a person to apologize. I think it makes you more of a person. I think God thinks a whole lot more highly of a person that can go and say, I goofed up. I shouldn't have done it. I'm so sorry. I won't do it again. Say it from your heart. Mean it. It's called repentance. And all repentance is, remember, is just turning away from that sin and going the other way. So this kid, he's going to go back and he's going to apologize to Pop and say how sorry he was. Then the Bible goes on to say, he said, he's going to say to his father, make me like one of your hired servants. So he's not going back with a snotty attitude. This kid has really learned his lesson. He wants to go back. He's going to work for his father as a hired servant. He's not thinking he's going back as one of the favored sons. So he's learned his lesson, and he's learned it well. And so what does he do? He heads back home. He's going back home to be a servant. He left home a rich man, and now he's going back to be a hired servant. And now this is the part of the story I really love. It says, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion, and he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Now, in this story, the father represents God. When God sees you coming back, he will run to you. He doesn't wait for you to come to him. He runs to you. He has compassion for you. He'll throw his arms around you. But it gets even better. So this kid, he's back home now, and his father has nothing but love for this young man. The son says to the father, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to the servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Bring a ring for his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine who was dead is now alive again. The father celebrates when you come back. He doesn't beat you up when you come back and say, you did so bad. How could you do that after all I've done for you? Look what you did. You wasted all the money. That's not what God does. When you finally come back to him, he not only runs to you, he gets the fatted calf, he gets the best robe, he gets the ring. The key is learning the lesson. The lesson, what was the lesson here for the young man? The lesson was that there's an order in God's kingdom. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way. And back then, the right way was not to take your inheritance before your father was even dead in the grave. He did the wrong thing, and he paid a heavy price for it. But when he finally learned the lesson and finally came back, that's when the father said, open arms, come back. I want you back. That's what the hummingbird is. The hummingbird gets trapped, gets the wrong way, and we try to call it out, just like that husband and wife did. They tried to call that hummingbird out. If we don't get so deep in our sins that we can't hear the call, we can come back to. We can come back to the Father. Now, all of this takes something that I call faith. Now, I get asked all the time, Pastor, where do I get this faith? How do I have this faith that if I come running back to the Father, all this stuff will happen for me too? Yeah, it happened in the Bible for this guy, but how about me? Will this happen for me? And I tell them the answer is yes, it's going to take some faith. Now this faith thing, where does it come from? Is it like manna from heaven? No. Are you born with it? No. This faith thing is something that God will develop in you over time. It'll start small, and he'll develop it, and it'll get bigger and bigger. I'll give you an example. David and Goliath. When David finally fought the biggest, baddest dude on the entire planet, that wasn't his first go-around with this concept called faith and trusting in God. The Bible tells us that when little David was tending sheep in the middle of the night, that he had to fight against the lion and the tiger and the bear. So he had already had some experiences where God stood by him. Smaller experiences, and when he finally had to fight Goliath, the biggest guy on the planet, he was ready. His faith had built up. In your own lives, if you'll look back in your life, if you'll look back and you'll say, oh yeah, that little thing he did for me, I remember that, and then this other thing, and this other thing, all God's doing there is building your faith so that when you have to fight your Goliath, you're ready, just like David was. Now, you can help building this faith thing. You actually can play a part in building your faith. Everybody on the planet can do something about getting more faith. 3 ways to do it. 1, do what you did today. Come to church or tune in on TV. Come and listen, because the Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. Just come to church and hear. That will help build your faith. The other way is this book. Remember this guidebook, this Bible thing? Yeah, this book right here, chock full of stories of faith and of healing, of redemption, just like the Prodigal Son. Read the book. The book will help build your faith. And finally, this faith thing, you get to ask for stuff. You get to talk to God. It's called prayer. And when you pray, it's okay to ask. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. God is telling you, ask. Now, I'll grant you this. You've got to ask within his will. That's for sure. You've got to ask within the context of God's will. But when you ask, he delights in giving you what you want, as long as you're asking within his will. And the other part of that prayer thing is remember that when you're praying, you're just talking to God. Sometimes I'll get up in the morning, I'll say, good morning, God, how you doing? How's it going up there today in heaven? How's the angels doing? What's going on? Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, I'll just say, God, thanks for waking me up this morning. That tells me I still have a divine destiny ahead of me. You can just talk to him. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't need any fancy words. If you got some fancy words, that's cool, that's okay. But it doesn't have to be. You can just talk to him like he's your best friend, because guess what? He is your best friend. So you can help with this faith walk. You can help to build up your faith by doing 3 simple things. Come to church or watch on TV. 2, read this guidebook, this Bible. And 3, pray about it. Ask for stuff within his will and just talk to the guy. Just talk to God. He's your best friend. Back to the hummingbird. Each and every one of us on this planet are hummingbirds. Each and every one of us are sinners. Each and every one of us take some wrong turns and go down some paths that we shouldn't have done. If you've done something bad, welcome to the human race. Welcome to the club. The good news is we serve a God that has a way out for you. We serve a God that when you come back to him, just like the prodigal son, he won't wait for you to get back. He will run to you. He will throw his arms around you. He will get the fatted calf and give you the ring and the fancy robe. He'll do it all when you come back. So if you're like a hummingbird, I have good news for you. God loves hummingbirds. Let's finish with. Hello, friends. My name is David Timothy, but on the streets of Dallas, they call me the SoupMan. And with me today is my lovely wife, Shanna.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SoupMobile Church. We are so happy to have you with us today.
SoupMobile Church is a one-of-a-kind church on the entire planet. It's because it's the home church for the homeless right here in Dallas, Texas. The homeless have never had their own home church until now. However, we want you to know that the SoupMobile is more than just a church ministry. Shanna, can you tell us about the birth of the SoupMobile?
The SoupMobile was founded in 2003 on a wing and a whole lot of prayers.
Amen to that. So the SoupMobile mission statement is 3 simple words spoken by Jesus himself more than 2,000 years ago. Shanna, can you tell us what those 3 words are?
Feed my sheep.
That's right. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. At the SoupMobile, we feed his sheep in 4 separate and distinct ways. First, we literally feed his sheep. The SoupMobile is a mobile soup kitchen serving more than 250,000 meals per year to the homeless right here in Dallas, Texas. The second way we feed his sheep is the SoupMobile shelters the homeless. Our shelter program is transitional. It's designed to take a homeless man or woman right off the streets, put a safe roof over their heads, help them get a job, and then when they're ready, return them as working, productive members of the community. Our shelter program is a hand up, not a handout. The third way that we feed his sheep is at Christmas. Every year at Christmas, the SoupMobile takes 500, yes, 500 homeless men, women, and children, and we put them up for Christmas at the downtown Dallas Omni Hotel. They all get new clothes, fabulous gifts, lots of love, and we hold a huge mega banquet for them and in their honor. But most important, when they wake up on Christmas morning, it's in a warm, safe bed at the spectacular Dallas Omni Hotel, not in a cardboard box under a bridge somewhere. And the fourth way that the SoupMobile feeds his sheep is SoupMobile Church. And for us, this is the icing on the cake. The homeless have been called the largest unevangelized population in the United States. The SoupMobile Church is laser-like focused on bringing Christ to the homeless right here in Dallas, Texas. So that's it in a nutshell. The SoupMobile is really 4 missions in one. We feed the homeless, 250,000 meals a year.
we shelter the homeless, we give them a magical Christmas, and of course, SoupMobile Church, bringing Christ to the homeless right here in Dallas, Texas. So ask yourself, do you like what we're doing? Do you think it has merit? If you do, I would ask you to give prayerful consideration to joining the SoupMobile Dream Team. What's the Dream Team? Well, it's people like you and me that have a passion for serving Christ and like the mission of the SoupMobile. What's it going to cost to join the SoupMobile Dream Team? It's $5 a month. Yes, that's it, $5 a month. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that your $5 a month can't possibly make much of a difference in the life of a homeless person. And you would be absolutely right. Your $5 individually can't make much of a difference. But your $5, along with the $5 of thousands of other Dream Team members, can and will make a huge difference in the life of the homeless right here in Dallas, Texas. So how do you join the Dream Team? Simple. Go to our website, SoupMobile.org, O-R-G, SoupMobile.org. Click on the Dream Team button, read all about it, and if you still like it, you can join the Dream Team right online. And as our special way of saying thank you, we're going to send you, when you join the Dream Team, this special commemorative coin that my wife Shanna is holding. On the front of this coin is a picture of Jesus, and it says, "Feed my sheep," John 21:16. And then on the reverse side of the coin, it says, "Feeding and sheltering the homeless since 2003. And then at the very bottom, it says, "God bless America." So when you join the SoupMobile Dream Team, we'll send you this special keepsake coin. It's an impressive coin. It weighs in at 58 grams. And I promise you, it's a keepsake that you'll be proud to have in your home. Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. May the Lord bless and keep you all.